It is Heroes for Sale number 58, and it is the return of the, I was going to say return of the Mac, but that doesn't really work. It is the return of the Stu. Stu is back on the pod. G'day, Stu.
Well, yeah, you're sounding really excited, Riccardo, but I'm not leaving.
I don't want you to leave, Sue, but it's important that we welcome the big man back.
Oh,
You'll notice I know my place, and I waited for Sue to override my. Thank you so much for that, Riccardo. And we'll be having a conversation after the pod is done. How I've been treated so far. We're not even a minute in. Get out.
Where is the HR department at Heroes?
It's me. And I do my job well and thoroughly.
Yeah, and and if I was in charge of HR, we'd be sued, even though it's only the two
of us. Classic. Now, mate. Well, like I say, welcome back. You've been missed, and are you back on terra firma, as it were? You're back in Aotearoa. You're feeling like you're back in the groove.
I love being home. It was a very, very hard trip, very hard time away.
6 months.
I think the last couple of months, in the middle of it, I went to New York for a week. Anyone who's following some of the Heroes for Sale Facebook posts would have seen some images. And then once I got back to India from that, it was pretty much just, apart from a week of COVID, 7 days a week, just flat out working.
Nose to the grindstone.
Yeah. I even blew Diwali. I missed the main festival part down in the Pink City, which was dumb of me to be a kilometre away and a kilometre away from a 5-day festival and turn up on the 6th day thinking it was still going.
Outstanding. All right, mate. Well, welcome back. As a a welcome back gift, we've decided that you get to choose the first comic that we talk about on your return.
Okay, well, we're going to go with Our Bones Dust by Kiwi boy Ben Stenbeck, who many of you will know as the artist for many Mike Mignola projects. I do remember the time him telling us when he got the call from Mike Mignola. He submitted some work to Dark Horse in a competition. He won the first round of the competition, and he was in the whole, 2 or 3 years of more of this, and then I might get, the nod. He gets a phone call within a couple of days, and it was the classic. Yeah, hi, this is Mike Mignola. I talked to Ben, and he thought it was some Kiwis taking the piss out of him. So I think he may have even hung up. Sort of like, this is what I really want. It's not okay, guys. Just to ring it back. No, this is Mike Mignola. I've got a project I'd like to work on you. And silence for I think he must have worked for him for about 20 years.
Still is.
Yeah, still working in the Mignola-verse. But this is his first solo effort. And the best part, or not the best part, but one of the coolest parts, is the people he's got to do some of the covers. There's a Jeff Darrow cover.
Oh, he's got Dave Stewart doing the cover.
Yeah,
Dave Stewart's a megastar.
So mad chops to Ben for who else is involved in it. And then there's the book itself, which is...
So, Riccardo, you said before something that I didn't pick up on.
Didn't really pay any attention to too much and was reading it, and I was like, is this guy a Kiwi? Because some of the language he uses in it, I don't think anybody else in the world says ask, but one of the characters does in here, and also your little bugger is also there, and I'm pretty sure that's not an Americanism. So I was like, very much like, this is definitely Antipodean. Is he a Kiwi? And I was like, yeah. So pick that up straight away, and it's a mad book. It's kind of, well, actually say mad, it's kind of got a bit of a Mad Max vibe to it, doesn't it?
Yeah, the apocalyptic kind of bent.
And there's a video game set in the apocalypse. Fallout? Yeah,
Fallout,
it really feels like the world of Fallout fleshed out a bit in a comic with these super intelligent aliens doing a survey of Earth after the apocalypse. So, and then at the end, the what is that, bro? So
I love that like the aliens are not allowed to interfere. They are just observing. The way the humans are talked about is so like they love us like a little pet, but they're not allowed to interfere with us. I was really
I get, that's obviously some kind of Star Trek protocol, what is it called, Prime Directive or whatever, thing like that. But the humanity in this comic, when we're the equivalent of some kind of ant colony, aren't we? We're hardly worth interacting with, and things don't look pretty for our future. It's where we are cycling, toilet bowl is spinning, and we're getting flushed.
Did you really get, because I got the feeling that the alien is hopeful for the regeneration of us and nurturing. Yeah, but also the boy, or is that in the second issue?
I haven't read the second issue, but what I got from this is, when I said Mad Max, and in the Mad Max universe, it was all about oil or petrol was the thing, but this seems to be water. So I'm wondering if we've fucked our water reserves. The planet's just about died, and that's why water's worth so much, and that's why the plant growing is the aliens going, maybe we can resurrect it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely something big going on there. But it felt to me like there was a hopefulness in amongst the apocalypse. Did you not get that?
I don't see any hope at all for the human race. I think, without doing there's a sci-fi element obviously to it, and that for me means study the background, what's going on, how did we get to this point? And it's obviously taken a while to get there. Maybe only 10 years, 10, 15 years. But the language of who's left has devolved to suggest it's a little bit longer. And then you've got, graffiti on some of the walls. We could have been gods. And the buildings certainly suggest, I don't know, is it nuclear Armageddon? Did we nuke ourselves? Is it environmental or nuclear?
Well, potentially, because, the only thing that we've seen, the only animal that we've seen, I think, from memory in this is large roach-like insects. When they say about roaches, it'll be the only thing that survived, them and Keith Richards.
Keith Richards and roaches.
Yeah, there's definitely a mutation has happened. I loved it. I loved the colouring. I loved the language was just spot on. And the first issue really felt like the art carried the story. And then the second issue was like a jump up in conversation and language and dialogue. It was just like the first issue was just a visual feast.
Yeah. And talking to Ben about it and the process to get to this, because he's been working on this for years, years, to the point that I think a couple of years ago we were discussing, he was saying, should I bring it out as 2 48-page comics instead of the 422 that we typically get? Like, he was basically finished to that point. He was to Image, not Dark Horse, which I'm not quite sure what happened, or what, I don't know what the deals are with that. Maybe Image were just more amenable to it, especially with some of those other creators, as we've mentioned, being involved on cover art. He's been working on it for a real long time, and he's nailed, the fourth's obviously all done and finished. I think he's nailed it. I think it's for a solo effort, and I'm always hesitant of the filthy artists who think they can write. What are they doing? Stay in your lane, buddy. But he's certainly written it with a dialogue that suits.
He's got it. He's nailed it.
Yeah.
Our Bones Dust is the book through Image, Ben Stenbeck, Dave Stewart. So this is first one of 4.
1 of 4. Issue 2 is also out. 3's out in a couple of weeks, and it's obviously it's a Kiwi. We're all supporting it, I think, for issue, as far as issue 2s go, probably our biggest issue 2.
Wow.
People are sticking with it.
Everyone's getting it. Everyone's enjoying what he's done, and I think that's a testament to the fact that it's post-apocalyptic, but a bit different. Got the aliens in there, and then we've got whatever that monster is at the end as well. Is that going to be another alien?
No spoilers.
And the other thing too that I kind of like what he's done here is, you mentioned the backgrounds, but the backgrounds are no fuss. Like, there are some backgrounds where there's literally nothing because there doesn't need to be. You need to be focused on the foreground, but then the aliens aren't some stereotypical alien either. It's something quite different looking.
The alien is alien, without.
Yeah.
Is this truly something new for what we've seen with the alien, even the one up in space, whatever that thing is wrapped around, stripping the satellite for information?
What is that? That's not, like,
so that's suggesting that the two of them, like, that's flies, isn't it? That's got wings, man.
Yeah.
So suggesting that the two are a species that are part of something, maybe, I don't know, maybe some galactic federation.
Well, Stu's always had this idea that if we do get truly to be able to get off-world into space, the aliens are just sitting there waiting to take us out. They're not going to let us be spacefarer.
They're like, we've been watching, man. You guys have fucked your shit up. Don't come and fuck our shit up.
Yeah.
The Dyson sphere is going up pretty quick.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment. It's a fair assessment. All right, that is our Bones Dust image issue 1 and 2 out now. Issue 3 not too far away. What next, Sue? What next?
I reckon we should do Holy Roller.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see how Riccardo let me choose that? Because I've been holding the fork.
You choose your own meals. I don't.
You're going to hear about that for a long time, Stu. I was actually talking to a mate of mine today, and he confessed we were talking about the most you've ever spent on something, because Super Bowl tickets at the moment, the average Super Bowl ticket is about nearly 11,000 US. So what's the most you've ever spent on something? He went to a Super Bowl in Miami, the one just before the pandemic, early 2020, and confessed to spending a week in Miami. Best hotel, best tickets, best everything, spent 40K, him and 6 mates. And he said, and then my missus was supposed to go to Coachella with all her friends for her girls' holiday away, and it got cancelled because of COVID. And you think she brings that up? Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Hey, he said he was going for 3 months and he went for 6. I've confiscated his passport. Anyway, should we do Holy Roller?
The Holy Roller. Now, there's a bit of an all-star writing cast.
So Andy Samberg, Rick Remender, and Joe Trohman, Fallout Boy television and comics, and the collaboration was nutso. What did you think, Riccardo?
I really enjoyed this. I wasn't sure exactly where it was going when I started, but by the end I was on board. And there are a couple of things in this, because the Holy Roller is Andy Samberg's involved, so you know it's going to get ridiculous at some point. He's basically some sort of vigilante hero who uses a bowling ball as his weapon of choice.
Well, he has to go back to his small. He's a bowling like Big Lebowski. Think Big Lebowski because it's kind of that humor. And he has to go back to his small town to help his dad because his dad's sick and it's being taken over by white supremacists. And so he uses the bowling ball. I mean, what?
I don't know if you picked this up, but there were a couple of nods in here, I think, to things from the time as well. Like the guy that his dad beats in the big bowling match at the start, he looks like John Goodman's character from the Big Lebowski, doesn't he? He's wearing the jacket, he's got the glasses, he's got the mo.
Yep, and at that side on, he's got that haircut.
Yeah, the flat top. In fact, I'm wondering if he's not the cab driver. Is he the cab driver? 20 years on? Because they look. Yeah, but yeah. So that was. So I like that. But I also when you go to the ship and you catch up with our hero, he's got camo pants on, no shirt, he's ripped, he's got scruffy hair and a bit of a beard, and he's got a red bandana on, and that's exactly what Sylvester Stallone wore in Rambo.
Yes.
And look, if we're going to do this, I mean, turn 2 or 3 more pages. The captain of the ship looks like from Stripes. What do we? What's his name?
Bill Murray.
Bill Murray.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
And going back to the dad, like he is Judd Hirsch from Taxi.
I was thinking that. I was like, if they make this into a show, Judd Hirsch has got to play the dad.
Yes. Yeah. They've done homages everywhere. They've just brought everyone into
this. They just, there's parts of them where that you can see that kind of smile of those, especially.
It's just brilliant.
Yes. And like what sent me down that path was page 2. I'm like, that is John Goodman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's totally
he's got the glasses, it's everything about it. And then I started looking for more characters throughout it. Yeah.
I just love the absurdity of the whole thing, the whole idea of it. But also going back to the small town, you know, being confined into that just gives such an explosive setting for whatever goes down.
Yeah.
Small town mentality.
So as I mentioned at the start of the pod, I went to New York for New York Comic Con.
Oh, let's say that again now.
And I met Rick Remender.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I met him at the show.
Did you say hi from me?
I did. I said Riccardo says hi.
He said he's got pins in his heel at the moment. He's really yeah.
Well, so we had a bit of a chat, and I told him that, or mentioned that during the COVID lockdown, how I just spent 5 days reading nothing but Rick Remender.
Remender Bender.
The Remender Bender. He had 100 lithographs that he had printed off, and he signed that to the Remender Bender for me, and I bought that sign. And a cool guy. I was, but most creators, they don't know how to do the shows. He was a very cool guy.
I was trying to figure out how Andy Samberg and Rick Remender actually met to collaborate on this, and I can't figure out how that partnership.
I think Rick Remender, obviously he's one of my favorite writers because all of his stories just go in different directions and all the genres.
How did he end up doing this with Andy Samberg?
He's another, like the Tarantino of comics. Him and Robert Kirkman. How they pick a topic and they can do all of the different genres. So he's done his fantasy, which was Seven to Eternity.
Yeah.
A few sci-fi. He did Deadly Class. I mean, there's no way he's not known amongst. He can pick up a phone and call people.
Yeah, I know, but it was just like, I don't know. It felt to me like Andy Samberg just came out of nowhere.
Let's not forget his finest ever work, Scumbag. There is, now, I don't know if you guys read this, but you know the letter that they have in the back, or the notes they have in the back?
Yeah.
So he wrote that, and he's obviously taking the piss a bit with the story.
Yeah.
But if you read it and read between the lines, it sounds like maybe this collaboration started for one of the bigger publishers and got turned down, and then they took it somewhere else. Because they said eventually Andy called in the mysterious studio head who just fooled around on his phone like a teenager and couldn't pay attention to shit. Joe quickly had enough of that and barked right in his face. Kingpin meets Inglourious Bastards meets Batman. Equal parts action and humor, and a special introductory issue with 42 full pages of story. 2 issues for the price of 1, 3 writers for the price of 1, same great low price. Andy stepped up, kicked the old man in the turkey giblets, held him firmly to the ground, and slowly inched close enough to kiss him without making contact, snarled the now infamous line, "You want a comic book about a vigilante hero who smashes people's faces in with a bowling ball? You're in luck, bruv." Maybe it was a joke. But then they go on to say that they didn't do it with him; they took it somewhere else. So I do wonder whether or not that's he's basically inflated that story slightly, and this was supposed to be DC or Marvel or someone else.
There are some difficult publishers out there who do not actually support and hold the hands of creatives to get things done.
I don't know if Remender's done any work for DC.
No,
he's only worked for Marvel, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think so.
He's done X-Force and he's done a few other pieces for them, but I don't recall a DC title he's done. But look at that. Turn that page, Riccardo. Look at his pedigree. A Righteous Thirst for Violence has been huge. Low is fantastic. Tokyo Ghost is one of my favorites.
That's Seven to Eternity.
And he does, this is another thing that one of the guys in the line was telling me as we were waiting to chat to him, is that he does those huge collections. I mean, it doesn't quite work out for us as great as we'd like to in New Zealand because of the weight of them. And he sets the price. And if you look at his Rick Remender's big books, they are cheaper than anybody else's on the market. You get the Tokyo Ghost double book is like $40, $50 US. Low was the same. He has a lower price point than I think anybody else in comics.
That's awesome.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Do you reckon he's gonna bust out "I've got big books" with the Foo Fighters at any point?
I like big books.
Fantastic. But the Holy Roller. Sue, what did you think? You're a fan?
I absolutely loved it. Just that kind of that schlock humor with a deadly serious core plot going through it, and it's clever.
So when I first read it, I didn't think it was as funny as I did the second time, because the second time I read it, I read every character as what it felt like. Is that Bill Murray? So is this Bill Murray? And what's the Atlantis?
Yeah.
Where he plays the Jacques Cousteau type.
Yeah. Those kind of, and you can, and if you read the dialogue like that, then it's a much cleverer humor that is coming through with it.
I think it is.
Yeah.
Do you think this is just like a really, really fucking elaborate storyboard?
Yes. With the cast already chosen to be in it. And they're going to hand this to Bill Murray and go, "What do you think? This is your character." It's a couple of days shoot, because after he leaves the boat, I don't know if he wasn't back in issue 2. I don't think he's going to go back to work with the Greenpeace.
This is oh my god. I thought it could have been a storyboard, but it did use the medium really well. Like it wasn't stilted. Like, sometimes you get creators who do just chuck in a storyboard and think they've used the comic medium. It irritates the hell out of me. And this didn't do that. The art was brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, that's something AWA I think have done in the past sometimes. Yeah, good stories.
It's picture books, boys. Picture books, not
books.
comics.
The Holy Roller. Love it. All right, let's move on then. Another Image title. And this is like an old school collection in a way. It's like it's an introduction to a whole bunch of story arcs, Stu. It reminds me a bit of 2000 AD or even a Weird Tales or something like that.
What they've done is it's Ghost Machine is an imprint of the publisher Image, and it's been set up by creators, big creators, Jason Fabok, Gary Frank, Jeff Johns, Brian Hirsch, like just these Francis Manapul. There are a lot who have jumped onto this, and what they're doing is they're creating a universe inside Ghost Machine Publishing. The universe is going to have tie-in characters running in their own stories. It's kind of like what they're doing with the new Transformers and G.I. Joe called Void Rivals. And so they're just going to let the characters play together. And they've actually given us a timeline in here of where the different stories fit into in the timeline, like Geiger and Junk, starting in 1776 with Red Coat. Then you've got Junkyard Joe and Geiger, American Widow, Unknown Wars. And they've spread it out from 1776 across to 5 years from now. And all the stories are kind of just going to slot in and maybe see a little bit of the history of one of the previous stories coming into something that Geiger will be doing.
Can I finish?
You can start.
So, not wanting to harp on about the fact that I was at New York Comic Con. But these guys were all there. So there was an industry meeting to the side with all the retailers invited to, and some publishers, and Jeff Johns and that lot were up, and they talked about the launch of this and how this was then coming out linked around, starting with the whole Geiger verse, which has been really cool.
Geiger's brilliant.
Geiger's great.
I love it.
And now we get this, and it's a weird one, man. Like, I don't know how you are saying, because the idea is that they can all play in each other's universes, and the easiest way to extrapolate that to get the best understanding is Iron Man can be with X-Force, right? Or Moon Girl can be with Wolverine. It's all one great big happy Marvel world until you get into studios making various films, whatever. So the Geiger storyline has been expanding ongoing with Junkyard Joe and Geiger, and we know we've got Redcoat coming out. And then you've got these bios of the characters, which is, you should buy this comic because there's a huge mistake in it. That sometimes they recall those to fix it. I know it's huge. But President Sarah Nash, they've got first appearance, first Ghost #1. Well, actually, her first appearance is Ghost Machine #1. And all the others are actually listed correctly. So pretty dumb thing to notice, but I only noticed that when I was looking at the Rockefellers, and it had everyone down the back there listed as it had their first appearance of them all. And I'm like, so are you saying to people, it's a big comic. There's a lot of story there, and there's a lot of
It's like an anthology to introduce all the stories and the idea of Ghost Machine.
But the opening page has got, building on the groundbreaking foundation of Image Comics, we prioritize the artist, which I find really interesting because I think Image of late has gone from strength to strength because they've been far more story driven. They've had great artists in them, but Image started as an artist-based company. And Rob Liefeld got his chops there, right? He got started. They took him in.
Yeah.
Now it's like we're going to go back to that, and we're going to link these stories across. I'm fascinated to see how it all gets pulled off. I don't quite see how the Rook Exodus Dire Wolf story, which I thought again was beautiful and fun, could potentially at all mix in with anything else they've done there. The story seems so divergent.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they weave it in. I mean, like the only thing that I picked up that I kind of went, I should mention that was the Rockefellers, which I thought was quite a nice play on Rockefeller, that family. But at the end of their little story arc, they go to a drive-in movie, and what's the movie? It's Junkyard Joe.
Yeah.
So I wondered maybe it's just nods like that in certain areas rather than complete tie-ins, maybe? I don't know.
But Redcoat's immortal, so that answers how he can be a part of everything. And I think Northerner is as well. Geiger can't be killed. I mean, I really liked some of the stories. Hornsby and Halo I thought was hilarious. Peter Tomasi. But I don't understand why they have to have a new imprint publisher. I'm scared that that's going to weigh them down financially. I don't understand why they couldn't have done this just in Image. I'm hoping that it's not going to crush their creative outlet. All the best to them. I really hope this works. We're certainly supporting it, but I'm nervous.
I mean, this comic, Ghost Machine, is worth getting, right? I mean, it's like $11.95 Kiwi for, I don't know, 157,000 pages. It's a huge comic. I don't think you can do a bigger comic without it being a graphic novel. Like if you put another 10 pages on this, you need to square bound it.
I think everyone needs to get this because it's certainly a pivotal piece for this publishing company, but also you might pick up one of the stories from the universe at a later date, and I think you really need this zero issue, really,
like a reference point, this
is why. Two vital principles: first, great comics come from great characters, and second, equity comes from true artistic ownership. Like it's almost like there's a little bit of dirty laundry, but you're an Image imprint. So bizarre. And from my side of things with Comic Hub, Image need to actually pay a little bit more to editorial and stuff in their data. They're shockers for some of to deal with in the back office part of what's going on because of the way they're set up. So I don't know if this is going to help or hurt that even more.
Well, I wondered, and I don't know the industry like you guys do, but I just looked at this and went, is this some sort of backroom deal that's been done to boost a new publisher that, there might be a couple of creators who aren't happy with the overall thing, and this is their way out? They set it up under the Image title, the sub thing of Ghost Machine, and then in 3 or 4 issues, Ghost Machine becomes its own thing and breaks away from Image altogether.
That may be what they're intending. It's like, it's lots of publishers have imprint.
Riccardo, I do not see the upside of that path at all. I see this strengthening Image, maybe if it's creator owned. Okay.
I just don't want to lose Geiger, and I don't want to lose Riccardo.
Right. Okay. So now I understand it. Creator owned is its own. Image is owned by Robert Kirkman, Eric Larson, Todd McFarlane, Mark Silvestri, Jim Valentino, and Eric Stevenson. Right. After that, there's no creators. The rest of the team involved are presidents of finance and accounting in the credits there. So I guess this is these guys saying, okay, we'll print under Image, but
own everything.
We're going to own.
Yeah.
Maybe that becomes a vehicle that can be sold. Maybe look at what happened to Valiant. And they're like, 285 million, bro. Is that what you got for that company you paid 30,000 for? Yeah. Well, we can pay nothing for this, and maybe we can get 285 million for it. I don't know. Maybe
we got Bloodshot movie out of that deal.
Yep.
Yay.
Yeah. Well done. So there you go. Ghost Machine out of Image, and like I said, how many stories in there? Half a dozen?
Yeah.
Half a dozen. I mean, we've done Geiger on this pod before.
Yeah. That Geiger book is great. Love that Geiger book.
Well, that's now in Ghost Machine.
Junkyard Joe I enjoyed.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to Redcoat.
Yeah, a cool story. I think I'm more for
Northerner.
I think it'll be a more interesting one. I will be reading everything from the Geigerverse.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed everything that's come out of that weird mashup. So if that's what they're building it around, they've got the solid foundations, they'll do all right. Just a bit of a weird opening comic.
Yeah, it is a bit weird, but I enjoy it because I almost wondered whether or not you gave me this by mistake, because it felt like such an introduction to so many different things. I'm like, how are we covering this?
Yeah, it's like an anthology introduction, and it's one that I think everyone needs.
And so when are the next books from Ghost Machine coming?
April. There's a new Geiger #1 coming in April, Redcoat, and then the Rook Exodus story. And beyond that, the rest of these stories in here, I mean, they don't even have street date or month dates. So
there's no pre-order for them yet.
Just the 3 of them are ready to be,
And just on that, I don't know who drew, because I haven't been too lazy to read that part, but who drew the Rook? Because I was like, Boy, Star-Lord, whoever created Star-Lord might want to have a word.
Jason Fabok.
Jason Fabok, man.
I love his work though. He is incredible.
The work he did on the Batman
Three Jokers
was just unbelievable.
But there you go. Ghost Machine, Image #1, out now. Grab it in store. And that means, do you want to do your usual intro, Stu?
What do you mean you haven't read it, Riccardo?
Our intro to the graphic novel was When You Were Away. Oh, it's another fantasy one. Jude's not here.
But Stu's back. So it's definitely not fantasy. It is year 0, and the Z is in red, and it is a capital. And yeah, you guessed it. It's volume 0. It is a zombie book, an introductory zombie book. And I've really enjoyed this because it's not the typical zombie thing that we've seen before. They have gone slightly differently. It is a bit more, I guess it's touched on that global pandemic idea, but it's a bit more, what are we talking, MI6, CIA, all of that sort of stuff, and it is really seeded it in well. It is very much the start of this, and from 4 different POVs.
The volume 0, and it came out as the 3rd volume, so it's like a prequel to exploring how the apocalypse happened. And yes, uses real world experience from what happened with COVID and how we reacted and how we attempted to stem it, but told from 4 different perspectives in 4 different countries, really, which was cool because then you could bring in all sorts of different idiosyncrasies from those the ways that we would react. I loved it.
And that is the crazy part, Riccardo. You've read volume 0. It was the 3rd one to come out. So they did the first 2 volumes, and then there was how did this start or whatever. Like when you do that kind of zombie story, the really cool part of it is that the zombies it's like it's a character that you know is coming. You know, like when you go see a Predator movie at some stage, the Predator's finally going to arrive on the screen doing whatever they're going to do. And so you're reading this, and it's not a singular thing. It's the virus is going to manifest, and the world's going to start to fall apart. So there's this permanent looming character in the story that eventually appears that we all know that we're building up to, because the cover is basically an air hostess and a whole bunch of bodies with a lot of blood going on the plane with bite marks. So there's no doubt about it when you buy this that there will be blood, there will be zombies. And they've done the same thing in every story, though, or every graphic novel. They've done 4 separate places on Earth, 4 separate character stories, and none of them have been continued. So you go from volume 0, volume 1, and then volume 2, they all conclude, even though they don't feel like they've concluded. So you get to the end of that and think, what's going to happen to that person? Well, they probably died of a zombie virus. But that's how they all go down, yeah.
And I love that there was the 4 in this. There was the airline stewardess, the North Korean, the ER nurse in the rural south, and the Russian cop who was like 2 gangs were having members just massacred, and they thought it was rival gang stuff, and he comes in and he sees this is not rival gang stuff, this is altogether different, and just that whole brutality in the streets. And then in the flight attendant, there was, when COVID was starting to happen and we were starting to hear about it, there was a lot of flight attendants and a lot of gossip in the airline industry where it was all transmitting and being very visible.
Yeah,
and
think of the job you didn't want when COVID started.
Yeah.
Regardless of what you think about it now, there was a period on this planet when no one really knew how dangerous this was. And then when the country started shutting down, and you still had people having to report in for work.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what your position is on COVID now. It must have been terrifying. So nah, bro.
So when that was all happening, there was little gossipy sites and Instagram accounts and stuff with airline stewardesses. And to have the stewardess in this one overhearing the military people talking and seeing the panic in some of the travellers as they're trying to leave countries and things. As you said before, Riccardo, it kind of had a little bit of a feel of a behind the scenes MI6 kind of what the hell's going on. And I really liked it. It was kind of like just there was so many different dimensions going on.
And they honed in like the background story of the Russian, the part when they talk about the siege of Leningrad. And he's got that line, of course, it's not the body count of the siege that truly infects the city's soul. It's the cannibalism. And that we know that happened, right? In Leningrad, they were under siege for 900 days. And then he goes a little bit further into that. So the fact that you didn't get more of that particular story was, for me, was a little bit disappointing because I have gone on and read volume 1 and I'm now halfway through volume 2, which again has moved to a different set of characters. But I think, Walking Dead is 33 volumes. Okay, and it is probably the best zombie book that's obviously ever been done. There's been a couple others that aren't in print. There was the one about someone put together a zombie book based on information left behind. Like it was a found backpack. Someone had collected notes from the backpack, or someone found the backpack, and in it was a chronology of what had gone on. And there was June 16th, and it's a note of picking John's left school early, got to run him through to the doctor. He's got a bit of a cold. And so the start of this book starts off with these kind of gentle notes of people just getting a little bit sicker and sicker, and then it gets to everything goes wrong in a hurry. But no part of that was an actual cohesive character-driven part. It was just a story put together with stories. Shame we still can't get it. I don't know why I've talked too much about that.
Yeah, that was a big long rant about something.
Well, my point is, the zombie apocalypse has actually been done very cleverly in different stories. Robert Kirkman's pitch for Walking Dead, when he tried to pitch it to DC and then to Marvel, or DC turned him down for Vertigo, they said, "What's this about?" He said, "It's how do we survive the zombie apocalypse? How does humanity survive the zombie apocalypse? We don't." And they were like, "Yeah, not for us, bro." So he did it himself at Image and has made tens of millions of dollars out of it. Good on him. But it's a commitment, It's not you're not going out for the weekend with that. That's a relationship that goes on for a long time. If you want to duck into some real quality zombie story, this is it.
So what they did with Year Zero is the first 2 volumes were written by Benjamin Percy, and I think Roman Rosanas did the art on both of them.
No.
Did he only do it on
Who's
the
that guy who does all that?
He did it
Rick did volume 2.
Yeah. So, but Benjamin Percy wrote it. It's AWA, which is an IP farm, right? And so Benjamin's created this universe where you can come in and dip into several different characters and not follow them on, but can build the idea of what happened in this apocalypse. And Daniel Kraus has come in and carried it on and written the volume 0, the prequel. So I love that this has become a property that lots of different people might get a chance to work on. So we'll keep getting new flavors in there.
Yeah,
hopefully.
volume 2 has a Yakuza hitman who
he's cool.
He's setting up to do his mark as Tokyo goes to crap. So it's about him going home. A little boy in Mexico, where it's become sort of the Day of the Dead, obviously.
Literally.
A prepper in America, like who had his bunker, and it was like, I told you all. And five women in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
So, and then the source of it, which, where did the zombie thing come from? And the study of that was kind of a weird little expert running through it. So these people can write what they're best at. And I think the best example of that is when Brian Azzarello wrote Hellblazer. Anyone who followed Hellblazer will remember that Hellblazer moves to the US because Azzarello basically said, "I've never been to the UK. I cannot write a story based in the UK. I don't understand the culture, but I can bring an Englishman into America and write that." And so there's the ability here for anyone to do what they might think might happen in a zombie story in their particular culture now. And I think that's why this is so strong.
There was some social comments around volume 0 where I think they've missed the point of different writers being able to pick up this universe and carry it on, because there was some complaints about some social commentary that went on. Like, do you remember in America through COVID and all the riots and protests, and the McCloskeys, he was a lawyer and him and his wife stood on their lawn and had their guns out and were trying to stop people walking down their street. Do you remember that?
I don't remember that, no.
Social memes and everything. And anyway, so there was a little bit of a poke at
was
that in
COVID
year
or Black
zero.
Lives
It
Matter?
was
We gotta-
Black Lives Matter.
That would have been more.
Yeah, there was a poke at that, which upset people. And then the fact that the flight attendant was transgender, to me, was just, there's an evolution of the writer being able to write in social stuff that's going on as a normalcy, as this is what the world was when this zombie apocalypse happened. And I just liked the realism of everything in it.
I did pick that up. But what I was going to ask, though, is there an over, like, you know how with shows, you have a showrunner. Is there somebody who is got overarching quality control of this to make sure some writer doesn't fuck it up by going wrong somewhere?
I guess they would be allowed to bring in the social situations of the time. Otherwise, it's not going to make sense to the reader, right? There has to be some anchors to reality for us to take that leap with them. But I would think they would be pretty free to just stay within the realms of these are the rules of this universe, not these are the only characters you can use. Otherwise, there's no point getting other writers to write those characters.
Yeah, and it wasn't so much about the characters themselves, but about where the story gets taken. But I mean, on that, then how far? Stu said like 33 books for Walking Dead. How much life do you reckon this has got in it? How many issues are we going to see?
I don't know.
We haven't seen any more since issue 0. I don't know if there's going to be more. And
so 3 volumes.
And so volume 0 was. I guess it's interesting that they've numbered it that, but it's prior to everything going completely wrong. It's just got legs that they can come back to whenever they want.
Well, that's what I was meaning. I was like, from what you were saying, if you switch the characters out every volume, you could go for as long as you liked.
Yeah.
Billions
of people in the world.
Easily. And
they should do a comic shop owner doing the apocalypse.
Oh, I would just go out and get infected, get it over.
No, you know what would happen is the comic shop owner would lock his doors or her doors, and they would go, "Oh, thank God," and then be crushed to death by their to be read pile.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, wrong.
Good stuff.
Year 0, volume 0.
Number 3.
First of 3.
Yeah. First of 3, but third of 3. Yeah. Good stuff. All right. Well, I think we've covered everything off. Is there anything else you guys want to add?
Hey, look, thanks for keeping it going, guys. Well, I guess we'll be doing all 3 ongoing.
But you're not getting rid of me. I really enjoyed it with Riccardo while you were gone.
Yeah, no, we did book club last night, so it's been really cool to get into the meat of comics, and I've been invited onto another podcast on Friday as a guest to talk about comics in New Zealand.
Oh,
no, I'm just saying, I'm just really enjoying the whole
back in comics.
Getting into, Sue sent me some comics when I was in India that I read. It was fun, but I really like dissecting them. And we did book club last night. We did Bodies. Man,
that's intense.
And
it's a TV stuff.
First read of that. I mean, I don't think we could do it on the pod.
You can't do it on the pod. It's
just
massive.
Almost an unreadable book. First time round, watch the TV show and then read it, and it's become possibly one of my favorites for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Easily.
Cool. Awesome.
First time you're like, this mess.
Yeah.
And that's a wrap for Heroes for Sale podcast number 58. We'll be back in a couple of weeks with another episode. Don't forget to read the show description. You'll find the link there to the other podcast Stu is going to be a guest on. Cheers.